Welcome to Legal and Lucrative, an interview series from CFO Accounting Services. In each episode, we sit down with attorneys to talk about the real side of running and growing a law practice. The people, the challenges, and the decisions that don't always show up on a balance sheet. We'll explore leadership, balance, and the financial realities of firm ownership, and share practical insights to help attorneys build practices that are both successful and sustainable.
So thanks for joining me today. Like I said, we have just 7 quick interview questions that I want you to give me your perspective on how you would answer these. But the first one is, what inspired you to start your own practice company, and what has surprised you the most?
Sure. As we were talking, I was a trial attorney at a small firm. And as the new young attorney, the senior attorneys tasked me with going out and trying to figure out what we should do with marketing. This was 2000, I'd say between 2005 and 2007. And long story short, I wasn't that inspired. And so I thought, hey, we could actually there's a business here. We could do this for attorneys. And so in 2008, we founded our company.
Nice. And what surprised you most about running the company?
So many surprises. I guess I would say the biggest surprise is how fast everything moves. Getting into digital marketing, I knew it moved fast, but especially now, we've been doing this since 2008, and it's moving faster than it's ever moved right now. So there's probably a little recency bias there, but it changes so fast. And I think that's one of the things that attracts me to it, is that it is constant problem solving, iterating, user behavior changes, how people find lawyers, even though like the fundamentals are still the same, the ways that journey happens for a lot of people is constantly changing. And I just find that to be really interesting.
So how do you balance both being the business owner and working with the clients, the team?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And it comes down to getting the right people in the right seats. We run on EOS, the entrepreneurial operating system. And so getting that accountability chart right, recruiting, hiring, and rewarding people, that's really my prime focus, and making sure that it's a great place to work. There are lots of different choices. People can work from home. We're fully distributed. So we're a remote first company. And so making sure that we're competitive in terms of attracting talent. But it really, like every business, we laugh, but even technology and software businesses, there's still people behind everything. And so for me, my biggest focus is making sure that we've got the right people on the team and that we're all aligned and delivering great value for our clients.
Nice. So when you think about growth, what is your main focus right now?
Another great question. I would say primarily it's our podcast. So we do this Lunch Hour Legal Marketing podcast. I co-host it with a competitor of ours who's become a friend over the years. And I was very skeptical going in. And I think for lawyers that are listening that maybe have thought about podcasting, I came in with a ton of skepticism. I was like, there's no way that busy lawyers are going to listen to me and my co-host rant and rave about marketing topics. And it's been honestly one of the best sources of business for us. And I think the takeaway for lawyers, one, is that if you're going to do it, you've got to do something that people are going to regularly be interested in. Lawyers tend to think, I need clients now. And so they go to like that, what the marketing people would call like bottom of the funnel, direct response marketing. But the truth is that you want to be establishing relationships and staying top of mind with people before they need you. And a podcast is a great way to do that. But you can't just talk about law, right? So if you're a criminal defense lawyer and all you're talking about is criminal defense law, people that don't need you, they're not going to listen to your podcast. But if you're covering like your local community, maybe you're covering like a sports team, or you're covering local restaurants or something, people actually want that. Like people in your community want that. And so they'll listen to the podcast. And then they're like, oh yeah, who's that person, who's that lawyer who does the podcast? And that's how it's worked for us. And I think that's how it would work for a lot of law firms too.
I see that. That's great. What has been your biggest financial challenge, and how have you tried to tackle it?
Yeah, so for us, and I think it was not quite the same as law firms, but for us, the biggest financial challenge is keeping our expenses in line with our growth. And so it's really easy to spend money. But if you don't have a budget, if you're not disciplined in how you're actually like thinking about how you're spending money and forecasting through the lens of financials, I think that's probably the biggest issue. And as you probably know, we see this with our clients all the time, and which is one of the reasons I love talking to people that are in finance in the legal space, because there's a huge need for it. Lawyers go to law school, they learn to practice law. They don't know anything about business. They don't know anything about P&Ls. They don't know anything about the cost to deliver their service. They tend not to think about things like margin. It's like margin, that's just what I take home. And I think for us, the biggest thing that we've seen our clients too is that discipline in understanding your finances, getting dashboards in place so you can actually make data informed financial decisions as you grow.
Yes, I hear that a lot. So, how do you make important business decisions? Heavy on data, intuition, advisors?
I would say advisors and data number one. So much of what we do, especially with marketing, it's all available. You've got to focus on data hygiene. You've got to get your systems integrated. But once you see it working, you can never go back. It's just the idea that you're just going to get lucky by having intuition. You're at a huge competitive disadvantage, and especially in legal right now. This is primarily in the plaintiff side personal injury space, but like private equity's coming in, national law firms are coming in, and they are locked down on their data infrastructure. And so you're competing against people they do financials professionally, they use data professionally. And I think that lawyers that want to continue to compete in these arenas, they've got to lean into that. And the good news is that it doesn't have to be terribly expensive. It's more about discipline and mindset and habits than it is necessarily about setting up a BigQuery database or something. I don't see how. I tell lawyers all the time, I'm like, it's competitive, it's getting more competitive, there's lots of consolidation coming. Making data informed decisions about how you run your practice is how you're going to be able to compete in this next wave of legal practice.
Yeah, I was talking to someone yesterday who was talking about all the private equity. I had not experienced that yet, so that's very interesting.
It's wild,
Um,
and a lot of lawyers don't know, to your point.
yeah, my own opinions on that. But anyway, looking back, what's one thing you wish you understood about the business side of running the company earlier?
Sure. I not to harp on this data thing, but I think if we had been more disciplined earlier, we would have grown faster early on. Again, I was a lawyer. I didn't know anything about digital marketing. I didn't know anything about running a business. And it took me a lot longer than I wish it had, but that was my journey. And so I tell folks all the time, I'm like, whether it's working with advisors, get experts in what the need is, whether it's financial, whether it's marketing, because it will just accelerate these people have already, all these experts, they've already seen all the mistakes. They've already made all the mistakes over the years. They've worked with lots of people who have made similar mistakes. And so getting those experts in place to be able to support you in places that you have gaps, like that's your biggest hack to be able to grow and run your business more profitably.
Yes. Okay, last question. What would it take for you to feel fully confident about your company's financial future and growth potential?
I'll tell you, we were with a consulting firm that handled our accounting and our finances for a long time. And that got us a big part of the way. We recently switched to even go more sophisticated, but I feel much more confident. I'm more confident than I've ever been. And primarily that's based on good bookkeeping, solid financials, solid financial forecasts, operating out of a budget as opposed to being like, hey, let's try this. And you see it plays out because you're just like, it's the same thing as like your personal budget, but no surprise when you're spending within a budget. Now you've got stuff you can manage and measure, and if you have the underlying data, you can make informed decisions about like, hey, this thing that I'm doing over here, not working so great. Maybe we deploy resources differently. This thing over here is working great. Maybe we double down on this. And when it's predictably reliable, it makes the investment much more easy to make than trying to be like, oh, this is very speculative and I got to take a guess.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. That was lots of good information.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Legal and Lucrative. A big thank you to our guest for such an honest and insightful conversation. For free tools and resources to help improve cash flow and profitability, head over to www.cfoaccountingservices.com. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. We'll see you next time.